Okay, let's finish off the Otto cycle before we move on to the diesel cycle. Okay, now an issue you might not know about is something called auto ignition or engine knock. Now, if you're one of the few people who has a background as a mechanic or really like to work in your car, then you do know about this and you know that it's not a good thing. Now, auto ignition is simply when I have the temperature of my fuel get too high. And so what happens if the temperature of the fuel gets too high is it goes boom. It's more like broccoli to me. Yum. Okay, I'll work on drawing explosions later. Either way, it explodes before it's supposed to. We don't want that. We're supposed to ignite it. Like, if we look at that engine before, we have the piston. It moves up. It compresses the gas. And then we have our spark plug over here, which sends out a little spark that ignites it. So that guy is what's supposed to do the ignition. And it does that when the piston has gone as far up as it's supposed to go. It reaches the top, then it ignites it and it goes back down. If this guy ignites too early, when the piston is, say, only here, that's not good. Because if it ignites right here, the gas is going to start pushing down on this, and my engine's not going to like that. It's going to still have to move up, but it's now pushing against the gas for a short amount of time before it's finally able to go back down again. And this distance right here, that is going to be a whole lot of wasted energy. So my engine's not as efficient. It can damage my engine. It can really mess a lot of things up. I don't want auto ignition. Okay, so how do we avoid auto ignition? Obviously, if it's all about temperature, we refrigerate our engines. Okay, that's not really working. We do cool the engine. That is a point. You have coolant for a reason. We have a radiator for a reason. But the biggest thing is it's all about compression ratio. I can only compress my fuel so much before the temperature increases too much and we reach that auto ignition point where I have instantaneous inflammation of my gas. Don't want that to happen, so this limits my compression ratio. So if I'm looking at, a typical engine in the Otto cycle, these are the compression ratios I'm allowed to have. I don't circle that, that's weird. These are the compression ratios I'm allowed to have right around here. That's where I typically am. I can go lower. Lower is not going to do much there. What you see here is that my efficiency for the Otto cycle increases as my compression ratio increases. So if I was able to be over here like 20, I would be at like the max possible efficiency for the Otto cycle. I want to be as efficient as possible. But compression ratio is still going to limit me because I'm going to reach engine knock. Now, other things we care about with engine knock is it matters what you're burning. You've probably seen octane, like you go to get gas and you see like 87, 89, 93 maybe, 88 sometimes. And you never really think about like what is 87 octane? Well, octane is the ideal fuel. That's what we compare it to. It has the ideal knocking characteristics. It has the highest temperature before it begins to auto-ignite. And so whenever I have that 87 octane or 89 octane fuel, I'm simply saying it's 87% as good as pure octane. Why don't you use pure octane? Well, you see the gas gets more expensive as you go 87, 89, 93. What do you think 100 would be? It'd be incredibly expensive. So it's more cost. We're using a cheaper brand of gas, so we don't have as high compression ratios, but we're able to do it, process it a lot cheaper that way. Now, while my issues with auto ignition and compression ratios don't go away if I change my working fluid, I can increase my efficiency if I do change that working fluid. And so this right here is air. But you can see if I use different working fluids, I can have greater or lesser efficiency. The higher my value of K, which is the ratio of the specific heats. I'm going to say CP over CV. I always get that one wrong. If it's CV or CP, you can check that later. I can have a better efficiency. Why don't we do that? Because air is everywhere, okay? It's everywhere. And so since it's everywhere, it's just way easier to use this. However, if I'm going into space, I wouldn't use an Otto cycle to get into space. I would use a completely different cycle. But let's just say I, for some reason, was on a different planet. Well, then if it had a different different gas that was the main component of its atmosphere, then I might have a different K value, might have more efficient Otto cycles than here. But once again, the issue with the Otto cycle is all about compression ratios. Like I'm stuck in this like 8 to 10 range, and I want to be higher than that if I want to get these compression ratios to be better. So how do I do that? Well, what we're going to learn about next time is the diesel cycle. So I'll see you all next time as we talk about that. Have a great day. Bye-bye.